Hey guys, welcome to the Speak Strength podcast. I'm your host, Jason Wendley. I am here with a friend of mine, Stefanie Cain from Cain Coaching. Stephanie and I met over 10 years ago. It's been a very long time. Early in our both of our coaching careers. I'd probably been coaching a few years before she got out of school, and then she came and worked with us in Lexington, and we started to develop a really good friendship, and we've worked well together. Watching her career from where we started to where she is now has been an amazing journey. So I'm super excited to have her share all the things she's learned and all the nuggets that she can have and drop in our little ear. So Stefanie, if there's anything you'd like to start with, let us know before we get into these questions.
Awesome. Thanks for the intro. You have definitely been an awesome mentor and friend. So yeah.
Well, I appreciate that. Thank you. So you moved to South Carolina from Pennsylvania, and you started working at Body Shop in Lexington, which is where we met, what you just said.
Yep.
And now you have your triathlon coaching business. What was your journey from working with us at Body Shop Athletics X to where you are now at Cain Coaching?
So it's kind of crazy, and it's completely in the hands of God, like how things transpired, because I really needed to work and get my master's degree and pay for it. So the hardest thing for me was I wasn't really able to do that at Body Shop with the hours. It was just becoming too difficult. So I was looking for a full-time job, ended up getting a full-time job at a retirement community in West Columbia.
Okay.
And so while I was there, I was getting my master's, and we had this great idea, like, okay, I'm a triathlete, I'm doing these triathlons, and what if we started a team at the retirement community for everybody that lived there and all the community members, anybody who wanted to join. And at first it was just 55 and up, and it was so cool. It was going really well. And then we decided to make it intergenerational, just to add this extra dynamic to the team, so that, like, if you wanted to train with your aunt or your grandma or your mom's best friend, you could join even though you're not old enough. And so honestly, it got so big, and I had so many people asking me to coach them that I couldn't work full-time anymore and coach. And it was such a passion for me. And I had so many people say, like, oh my gosh, you just should do this full-time. Like, you're really good at it. This is what you're meant to do. Take the leap. And so I took the leap. I quit my job, which was huge. Like, oh my gosh, I can't believe I just did that. And now I own a coaching business. And so I've coached athletes near and far, but mostly local, but I do remote coaching as well. But I really like to see people and hug people and high five. And so that's kind of like, I like local, but I do both.
I think local's a dope space, right? I really like local too. But one of the things I want to go back into is from Body Shop X to the retirement community to Cain Coaching, and somewhere along the lines, you started doing triathlon. So I'm guessing you didn't just hop into coaching triathletes out of nowhere. You mentioned you were doing triathlon. So how did you get into triathlons yourself? And then we'll go back to how you got into coaching, because I'm pretty sure there's a little journey there. The same way that other athletes get into coaching too. They somehow experience a positive experience, and then they decide that this is how I want to touch people. So let's start there.
Yeah. So when I started working at this retirement community, was newly in South Carolina, and I was just meeting people, making friends. And one of my coworkers actually said, hey, you're a runner and a swimmer, and that's cool. And he said, my wife's actually going to do a triathlon like next month. And he said, you should do it too. She at least needs to beat one person. And I kind of laughed, like, okay, sure. And so he gave me his wife's number, and I texted her, and I was like, hey, listen, I have this old mountain bike. Let's just maybe.
You did your first triathlon on a mountain bike?
I did like my first 3 or 4 on a mountain bike, like a heavy mountain bike. So I went out and rode my mountain bike about 4 miles in my neighborhood, and I was like, cool, I'm good.
You got
And
this.
then the weekend before the race, so I knew nothing about training specifically for a triathlon.
Yeah.
The weekend before the race, we went to the Y in Irmo, paid our day fee, swam the same distance, biked the bike course, and then ran the run course, which was a terrible idea.
So that was the first time you'd gone through a complete race? Or I guess they call it, is that a brick? Is that what it's called in the triathlon world?
Yeah, it's our first brick training. And I had no idea what bike shorts were. Like I was wearing my bathing suit and my running shoes and like my old helmet from like, I don't know, college or something. Probably wasn't even legal. And turned out I got second place in my age group, and there were not only two of us.
Nice.
And I was like, man, like maybe there is something to this. So I just dove in like head first, and I wanted to learn everything there was to know about triathlons and training. And so I did a bunch, and then I had saved up all this money from babysitting people's kids on weekends.
Right.
And I spent every penny on a bike and bike shoes and clips and a new helmet and all this gear, because you have to have some gear.
Yeah.
So I did that, and then I started winning my age group, and I was doing really well. And so then people were asking me to help them train, and I thought, well, I guess so. I mean, I know enough about it now.
The body,
and then, fortunately, I got the opportunity to become a USA certified triathlon coach. So I went, and I think it's like it used to be like a 3 or 4 day conference, and then you have to take a test and prove your knowledge.
Right.
So I was able to do that, and I've been training ever since. It's actually been since 2011 that I started coaching.
Gotcha.
So we're going into 9 years, going into 10.
Yeah. So you were already training people fitness wise, so it almost just molded itself into the right place. Like you were in the right spot, right time, right passion, and it hit you. It's kind of crazy how God works, right? Everything seems to line up, and He's like,
crazy.
I got you covered right now. This is where we're going.
Yeah. And so I was already in the industry, in the field. It was just a matter of me learning more about endurance athletes and endurance training and just the ins and outs. And honestly, like I had a lot of people come alongside me and help me in my journey.
Right.
And so a lot of mentors, a lot of swim coaches that taught me like just these amazing, cool things. And really, like I spent a lot of time going to conferences, reading books, webinars. I was so hungry for the knowledge for myself and for others. So it was a really cool thing how it just all came together.
Did you swim prior to moving to South Carolina, or did you pick that up?
I did. Yeah. I grew up swimming.
Okay.
I did not swim competitively in college or anything like that, but I grew up swimming. Wasn't a lifeguard. Like I know everybody asks me that, like never was a lifeguard, but I did grow up swimming. So I do have a lot of background in swimming.
So that was pretty much just picking that up as soon as you got in the water. You were almost like, yeah, I got this. The only thing that was different, I guess, was the biking, seeing as that you had a mountain bike, that first bike.
Yeah. Biking was tricky for me. Biking is still tricky for me because I don't love it as much as I love running and swimming. Like I go through phases. Like I think it depends on what time of year you ask me what of the 3 sports is my favorite, what my answer will be. But biking is still, I think right now it's currently in 3rd place.
Gotcha. It's not the first out of the 3. So we've established a solid foundation around how you started doing triathlons, and then people started asking you, okay, and then you started working at the retirement community. All right, so let's pick up there from you're loving the sport. You've already learned how to swim, bike, and run. You've got your certification. Now you work at the retirement community. Let's start a club.
Yeah. So we thought, like, how cool would it be? We have all these fit adults here, 55 and over, that could totally do this. I mean, the biking, I think, is the scariest part for a lot of people because if you fall off your bike, you're likely going to get hurt. So teaching good bike handling skills, safety was just paramount. But the biggest challenge was just getting people to actually mentally acknowledge and accept the fact that like, oh, I can do this. Like, you think I can do this?
Right.
And then it was like, oh yeah, this, I can do this for sure. And so we had this team, and we went around to local races. We would train for events to go to together, and some people would started to travel around in the state and some out of the state.
And
so it became this really cool thing.
And all this is before you actually opened up Cain Coaching.
Yeah, so this was before. And so it was just really cool to see these folks kind of come into this new confidence of like, I can do this. This is, I mean, and so yeah, I mean, I think we did that from 2011 to 2015.
Okay.
And then that's the year I went off on my own. And I still train and coach there. So we still have a team. Like they still they're the premier sponsor of the team. It's now intergenerational. So we have different age groups.
So
but
I thought that was a good idea.
Cool.
How did you determine to do this intergenerational concept? Like, it's not like that's widespread around the nation. Like, oh, there's an intergenerational team. Let's put them together and put them all the generations in one uniform. How does that work?
Well, I think so. What happens in like the aging industry, and not to sound ageist, but a lot of times we separate them and like, okay, well, these people are old or seniors or elderly, and we use these terms that make them sound so feeble and weak and like, oh, it's just so different. And quite honestly, I have people in their 60s and 70s that could kick the butts of a lot of 30-year-olds, maybe even some 20-year-olds. Like I have women that are, I'm fairly sure, faster than some of their grandkids.
Yeah.
So it became this thing of like, why the separation? Why do we need the separation? Isn't it cool if we have these people with a lot of life experience, some with a lot of athletic experience that come alongside these folks that they have less life experience, less athletic experience, and sort of meld them together and create almost like a mentorship program.
Right.
Because sometimes, like I have people that have joined that'll say like, well, I've been running since my 30s, but nothing really clicked and I didn't start getting faster until I got a coach. And so I'm going to stick with you. And that's pretty cool. I mean,
yeah, there's a lot of value in a coach, and we'll also come back to the value of coaching, but would you say there's a misconception when people talk about how training, I don't know what the correct term is, because you said the aging population but people with more life experience, like I think there's a taboo idea that you have to be soft and be dainty around it, where there's classes for them and where they sit down in chairs where really they probably need to get up. Is that something you find regularly?
Yeah. So I think honestly, if you asked a lot of my clients, they'd be like, oh my gosh, she's so mean. The thing is, if you don't have someone there being mean and pushing you, what are you really going to do? What are you really going to accomplish? And so I'm mean in a safe way with everybody that I coach.
I don't know if mean's the right word. You probably know how to push their buttons to engage them. Like you have the proper motivation.
In a very safe and healthy manner to do things that they don't think they can do. And so it's kind of, for me, it's very individual with who I'm training. I like to do a lot of baseline testing with people. So I know where they are. I like to assess movement. I know you do the same at Body Shop. You assess people's movements, the functionality of their movements, their strength, their flexibility. So much of that comes into play. And we know for a fact that if we do nothing, the two things that we lose the fastest starting early on are strength and flexibility.
Absolutely.
So if we take those two bits of knowledge, that's huge in knowing how to train someone of a, I guess, greater age than 40, 50, 60, 70. When you're looking at them, some of them have a huge athletic repertoire, like a big background in athletics. and they're very athletic, and you can tell by their movement patterns. And then you might get this like 25-year-old and go, you did not play sports, did you?
That was not that was not your hobby at all.
No,
I understand.
And you're like, you can tell they're hungry for it, but you have to start them in a different place because their bodies just don't have it. Just the movement pattern's just not there. So I really focus on pushing people individually, regardless of age. But one thing I do with my older group is a lot of getting up and down off the floor.
Yeah.
Like when we do workouts, we get up and down and up and down and up and down and up and down as part of the workout. But I think what happens, I mean, even starting at like 50 really, is if you don't get up and down off the floor, suddenly you're 70 and you realize you haven't done that in 10 years or more. And then you're scared to. So that's one thing.
We've couple of my staff and I, a couple of the coaches, we've got several, no, I say several, we've got a lot of people 35, 40, 45, 50, 55, 60. And the one thing we found is, like, as a kid, sometimes you'll look at someone who's older than you, who may be even in their 30s, and you're like, oh man, that's old. Yeah. Or you'll see someone who may not be able to move. And so you may have this idea in your head that once you get 35, 40, 45, 50 years old, oh my goodness, my physical abilities are going to diminish. Now, don't get me wrong. There may be some changes in what you can do based on risk and some other things. But at the same time, we have all these people. We have several 65, 60-year-olds who move, look, and are so much more active than a lot of people in their 35 and 40s. And we look at them and like, they make getting 50 look like a goal. Yeah, like when I'm 50, I want to be some of my clients, just to let you know. And then you probably have the same look at some of yours too. But it's kind of cool to see that age is, I guess, a minimal factor in our capacity for physical activity.
Right. Yeah. Oh, yeah. But in people's minds, it's this massive limiting factor.
Oh, yeah.
But really, it has so little to do with your actual ability.
Yep.
It's kind of mind blowing for me. I'm going like, what? I'll never be as fast as so and so. Why?
Exactly. Why? Tell me why you can't.
Yeah. Tell me why you won't be as fast.
Or we'll get the phone call of, yeah, what can you do with this old yada, yada, yada? And we'll say, how old are you? You know, I'm 38. I'm sorry to tell you, but that's not very old. And if you feel old, I'm glad you called. Let's get you better. Yeah.
Well, exactly. Like if you're calling me going, well, this 32-year-old body, we need to fix that. Like that's not normal. You should not feel like that. You should feel good.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah. So we're going to kind of move off of that. I really enjoyed that conversation, but you're a new mother.
Yes. I know. I feel like a new mom and an old mom at the same time. Like
she has an old soul.
We were just talking about like like time goes by so fast and it's like a blink of an eye. But at the same time, I'm like, oh man, sometimes it feels so long.
But that countdown from once you find out you're pregnant to actually having the baby also seems like it's a long period of time.
It's about 8 years, yeah.
Until you have the baby. And that, granted, I did not have the baby, but we have two. And I do remember that, oh, we're pregnant. Well, we're about a third of the way when you found out. And okay, it's only going to be 6 months. Oh my goodness, is the baby here yet? And I can only imagine as a dad, if I feel that way, how much more a mother has to feel that way when.
Yeah. Yeah. My sister's pregnant right now, and I'm kind of like, she's due this summer, and I'm kind of like in that phase of like watching it from the outside, and I'm like, God, like, have you been pregnant for like 6 years? Like, just have the baby.
Yep. Did you ever get the question, when's it coming? You're still pregnant? You look so pregnant.
Yeah, you look like you're gonna pop. It's like, so do you. I mean,
right? It's like the worst compliment. It's not even a compliment. It's like the most a terrible misconception about what a pregnant person wants to hear. Like I feel
it's like probably one of the rudest things.
You look like you're gonna pop. Oh, thanks, appreciate it. Yeah.
Yeah. I also feel like I'm about to pop.
Oh yeah.
Like it was funny because I did so much ab work, and actually, like my doctor early on was like, oh my gosh, your abs, like your muscles are so tight. She's like, be interesting to watch that stretch out. And of course I'm like, oh my gosh.
I've been
like,
working on these for so long. Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it all worked out fine.
Good. Were there any preconceived notions that you had going into being a mother that you kind of either strengthened or had to throw out?
So that's a loaded question. So yes and no. Like I kind of knew, I was a nanny, so I knew what it was like to have multiple kids that you're responsible for that are not your flesh and blood, but you love them and care about them immensely. And so I think just the immense amount of love the second that you see your child, I did not fully understand that. Like the second I saw him and held him, I was just like, I would immediately jump in front of a speeding train for you. Right. No question. Like, and so I think I wasn't prepared for that, just that washover of like emotion in that instant. But I was kind of prepared for the sleepless nights and the exhaustion.
Okay.
I also had a C-section that was not planned.
Oh.
And so for me, that was a huge adjustment because I was like kind of thinking 6 to 8 weeks and I'll be back. And really, even after 12, I was still in a lot of pain. And the road back has been, and I think will continue to be, a challenge. I've had just some, like, not serious complications, but I have a hernia. And so like little things like that, just little kind of like speed bumps along the way, right, that I wasn't ready for. I wasn't ready for 6 months in, like doing a sit-up to still hurt.
Yeah, that would be hard.
And I think the world is kind of harsh on moms. Like, get back, get your body back, do this, start running, get back to it. And really, like, we need to be gentle and kind because, one, it's exhausting being a new mom, especially a first-time mom. And also, sometimes, like, little things, like, I mean, I went back to my doctor and I was like, what is wrong with my incision? Like, something has got to be wrong. And she was like, no, I'm telling you, you need to heal. Like, 6 months is not enough. You cannot do sit-ups and expect to not be in pain. And I wasn't ready for that. Yeah. And mentally, that was hard for me because I just wanted to get at it and get back.
And how old is your little one now?
He is, 14 months. Almost 14 months.
14 months. For those guys who are watching, that's 1 year, 2 months, just in case you might not get that.
Yeah. A little over one.
Yeah, a little over one. So what are some of the milestones you've seen and got to enjoy?
Oh my gosh. So he is repeating a ton of words. He knows a lot of words. Like, it's so funny because he's just in the last couple of days, I'll say something like, it's hot, and blow on it. And now he'll go hot before he puts on his mouth, and like just cute things. He started walking before 1.
Nice.
So that was kind of exciting. Like, I wished that he had just sat down and stayed put a little bit longer.
Yeah.
He's real quick.
He's getting into things.
Oh yeah. And he's got no fear. Like, we bought a little Tykes slide for the backyard, and like day 2, he was climbing up the slide by himself. Like, what is that?
Up the sliding part? Not the stair part.
Nope, okay. Up the slide.
You got yourself an adventurer.
Yeah. But it's been super fun. And sometimes I take him to coach with me, and he has a blast, and my athletes all enjoy having a little mascot.
And that's pretty cool, I imagine, that they're also like, oh, there's a little baby. And it probably changes the mood when you're being a mean coach, you know.
Yeah, exactly. He definitely brings some extra smiles to a tough session.
So, all right, let's take this. So you're an entrepreneur. You have your own coaching business. You're a new mother. Yeah. You just moved into a house. And so you're putting all this together, and I'm sure you're making this work beautifully. So tell us about that.
I'm trying. The nicest thing is, like, for as many people out there who don't give grace. There are a lot of people out there that give a lot of grace. And so sometimes like I keep a very rigid calendar and reminders and notes and on each of my athletes. And so I'm, just make sure I know this person's doing their first 50-mile ride tomorrow and this person has a rest weekend and blah, blah, blah. And so sometimes I'll get like this text on Friday going like, did you forget my weekend workouts? And I have written down like, check mark next to the weekend workout. And so I just appreciate so much just sometimes that grace where mom brain just takes over and I'm going like, no, I didn't, but I wrote down that I did that.
Yeah. Oh, and yeah.
I'm so sorry. So, I mean, for every person that's like, get it together, there are just as many who are like,
who may not have it together. Like, yeah. There's things that they give you that leeway to work with and understand.
Yeah, exactly. And I know just as many men who have no children that forget things too. So
absolutely.
I mean, it takes all kinds, but I will say, I think that at least initially mom brain is a real thing.
Yeah. All right. We'll diagnose it. We'll call it that. Call it what it is. It's mom brain. No, I would probably get in trouble if I said that. Like, honey, that's your mom brain acting. Oh, sorry. I did not mean.
Yeah. But, well, I think dad brain might be a real thing too, because I mean, it's exhausting for both parents.
It can be. I'm not going to compare the two because that might get me in trouble. But
yeah, probably.
Yeah. How's your husband?
He's great. Good. He's working hard. He's done really well at work. He's gotten some promotions and he's just like busy, and now he has actual like work emergencies, and it's so big. And so anyway, he's awesome.
Good stuff. I'm glad to hear that.
Major stud.
Say that again. I'm sorry.
I said he's major stud.
Major stud. Jeff, you hear that? You're a major stud. Something that all guys need to be. But we're coming along the end of our time. Is there anything specific that you'd like to add or that we didn't go over that you think might be kind of key for the conversation?
Oh, I don't know. I think just to recap, just to say that age is seriously just a number.
Right.
It's just a number. It means nothing about your ability or has no bearing on your goals.
I think so.
It's a number.
I agree.
If you really want something, it doesn't matter whether you're 16 or 86. There are plenty of people that start running in their 70s or in their 80s or start strength training and see huge gains.
Yep, absolutely. 100% agree with that. And I appreciate the time that you came in and spent with us on the Speak Strength podcast. Yeah. I hope you guys out there got a lot of information out of the things she said. If you have any questions, you'll be able to get her contact information just below. There should be a link. And if you have any questions, you can also get her on Instagram at Cain Coaching. Is that right?
Yeah, that's
Good deal. Is there any email address or anything that you would like? Website? Just go ahead and spit off all your stuff.
Oh, yeah. So website is www.caincoaching.net. Email is caincoaching@gmail.com, and it's CAIN, Cain. So, I think that's it. And we have a Facebook page, and we do lots of good, funny, fun videos. We did a deep stretch today at noon. So
yeah, I saw that.
It'll be fun.
Good stuff. Well, thank you guys for watching the Speak Strength podcast. I hope you guys have a wonderful day, and we will see you next time.